on petroleum products by the end of April. But other prices will also be released, but this will not concern bread prices. Monetary reform will be undertaken only as a defensive measure if Ukraine introduces its own currency. 40 days have elapsed since the beginning of reform. What are you satisfied with, and what could be accelerated in the process of reform? We are satisfied with the fact that the increase in prices recently has been relatively small. I'm not talking about the jump in prices which happened in January, but about the price increases which are now happening in February. This is evidence of the fact that the strict monetary and credit policies of the government are producing results. There are many examples even of lowering of prices. One of the perhaps not such an important indicator, but nevertheless is important, is the fall in the rate of exchange of the dollar. How much does it cost now? Now a dollar in various deals has fallen to 65 rubles for $1. In general, it's at 70 to 80 rubles. It was 150 earlier, as you remember, and I believe that by the end of the year it will be down to 50 rubles a dollar. This time, the eye of the parliament on the process of privatization has become the representatives of various political parties which have unified into a parliamentary faction. The initiator of this meeting was the chairman of the State Commission on Property, Anatoly Chupais. The parties don't have their own economic program, therefore they're looking only for common sense and a level of competence in the government's program. The participants in this round table are concerned about privatization, especially about large industrial enterprises, and social justice during the selling of state property, and creating a system of credit for future owners. The opinion was expressed that no one will want to buy our unprofitable enterprises, and auctions could play an important role here. In March, the peak of privatization will come, according to the plan, and some said that the process has already begun, and life will show how it goes. Today, NATO General Secretary Manfred Werner met with the methodical approach of a military man in all his meetings today. He met with various representatives of Russia. This was a discussion not between potential enemies, but between partners. These are the negotiations between Russian Foreign Minister Andrei Kozyrov and the NATO General Secretary. The issue of Russia's rapid entry into NATO was not raised. They discussed instead the preparations for the summit meeting, which will take place in the framework of NATO's Council on North Atlantic Cooperation. The meeting will occur in Brussels on March 10th. All CIS countries are invited. The General Secretary also met with the CIS commander, Marshal Shapochnikov. The Marshal said that despite reports in the press, the NATO countries are interested in the strength of the Commonwealth and not in interfering in its internal affairs. They discussed conversion and stabilization of the security of Europe and the world as a whole. The General Secretary also met with Russian First Deputy Prime Minister Gennady Burubulis. They discussed the situation in the country and did not attempt to hide Russia's problems from the guest. They discussed measures to strengthen the economy. The General Secretary's full schedule ended today with a meeting with Russian Vice President Alexander Rutskoy. These two professional military men who have entered the world of politics found a common language to discuss various proposals, including disarmament initiatives. He began his busy schedule today by visiting St. Daniel's Monastery to meet with the Patriarch of Moscow and all Russia, Alexei II, who blessed the visit. Tomorrow, the General Secretary will meet with President Yeltsin in the Kremlin. Werner was not the only person visiting St. Danilov's Monastery today. It was the Patriarch's birthday, and he cannot complain that the secular world has forgotten about him. He is 63 years old. Russian President Boris Yeltsin came with warm congratulations. He expressed his gratitude to the Patriarch for his love for Russia and its people, and expressed his thanks for his work in support of peace and the prosperity of Russia. Thank you, Boris Nikolaevich, for your attention. This morning, Erich Honecker was taken in an automobile of the Chilean embassy to Bodkin Hospital in Moscow. He is being examined by doctors from the diplomatic corps. The doctor at the clinic said that the first examination was done today. Today, German Chancellor Kohl said that his government does not object to the medical treatment for Honecker, but said that in accordance with agreements with the Russian government, Honecker must return to the Chilean embassy after his treatment. The Chancellor expressed Bonn's desire to have the former East German leader return to Germany. This visit by the delegation of the Commission of European Communities is being given a lot of significance here in Minsk. They met with the Belarusian leadership today. Vice President Franz Andresen, who's the head of the delegation, arrived in Minsk with a group of delegates to evaluate the situation on site and then to determine the possibilities for cooperation in various areas, including investment, presentation of credits for implementing market reforms. The head of the Belarusian parliament, Stanislav Shushkevich, said that at the session of the Parliament of the Republic, they will consider the issue of the legislative basis for foreign investment in Belarus. The significance of Kazakhstan in Central Asia and for Pakistan in particular was evaluated in Islamabad today. The streets of that city are decorated with banners declaring "Welcome Nursultan Nazarbayev." Nazarbayev met with President of Kazakhstan, Ishaq Khan. Today they discussed restoring the warm relations between the country, which were interrupted several decades ago. They signed 5 documents declaring the basis of cooperation between Pakistan and Kazakhstan. The two sides agreed to open diplomatic missions in the other capital and discussed trade and economic cooperation between the two countries. Leading a Ukrainian delegation to Tehran, First Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine Masik discussed the fate of Ukrainian-Afghan war prisoners with Iranian President Hashemi Rafsanjani. Rafsanjani said Iran has enough influence on the Mujahideen to affect this process. The representatives of Syria, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine arrived in Washington for the next round of Middle East peace negotiations. The presence of these negotiators is unexpected here because the relations between Israel and its negotiating partners in the Arab world remained very tense before this round, much more so than before the previous 3 rounds of negotiations. This is because of Israel's operations in Lebanon, which have resulted in the deaths and casualties among the local population and UN forces. Israeli officials said that this operation was undertaken in order to avenge the death of Israeli soldiers. The situation is reminiscent of the Persian Gulf War, when Iraq did not give in to provocations by Iraq, as a result of which they won great sympathy in the world community. The invasion by Israel could have very negative effect on its position in world opinion. Nevertheless, these negotiations are being welcomed with a certain optimism. Each side has in mind attainable goals, including the stabilization of the situation and the creation of a stable peace. Not only those who live here are interested, but all those who are interested in the normal development of economic and cultural relations between the countries of the region. Today in Lisbon, the meeting opened of the European Community and the Central American countries. More emphasis will be given in their meeting on the observance of human rights in Central America. In a meeting at the headquarters of the Organization of American States, negotiations have resulted in an agreement that fallen Haitian President Aristide will return to head the government of Haiti. The African tour of Pope John Paul II is continuing. In Gambia, he called for mutual toleration and peaceful coexistence between peoples. He expressed thanks to the President of Gambia for creating a multi-party political system. In March, the program for enhancing security at nuclear power plants in the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe will be begun by Japan. For the next 10 years, 1,000 of our nuclear scientists will study in Japan. The government of Prime Minister Major is coming under constant criticism from the opposition, which has become activized because of the coming coming parliamentary elections. They are concerned mostly with the continuing economic decline